Aloha, everyone. Thank you for tuning in for our next episode of the Moana Nui podcast. I am Dana of Danique Events. For those that may or may not know me, I am a cosplay event and con staff photographer for a lot of the conventions like MomoCon, Anime Week in Atlanta, and Dragon Con. I'm also an event planner, and that is just on the side, not including my day job, and a lot more. And I also have my wonderful co host that is to my left, the beautiful Moana.
Aloha mai kako, everyone. Moana here, host of the podcast and founder, author of Fishing Day with Papa Ray from the Adventures of Nakoa and Nohea children's book series, editor of the Wildcard Chronicles comic book series, publisher at Burning Spear Comics, and champion and lover of all things Indigenous and indie. I'm really excited to have Alyssa with us tonight. She was one of our big supporters for our season 1 Kickstarter back in December, and we can't wait to speak with her. So I'll hand it back over to Dana.
Yes, but before we get started, a few announcements, of course. I am so excited and happy to be back with everyone today. I missed last week's 2 episodes, but we're very excited to have the co-host, the WWF champions. If y'all missed that episode with Danny, so we're back together, tag teaming as awesomely, beautifully as always. All right, and now also we are in the final hours of the Nightfall Kickstarter. It's already fully funded with 205 backers, but they're shooting for $7,000 in the home stretch. So definitely, if you haven't pledged to this Kickstarter, please go right to Kickstarter and get your pledge in before it closes out. You only have a few hours left. Also, mahalo to everyone who backed 4 pages, 16 bars, a visual mixtape anthology featuring our comic, The Wild Cards Chronicles, alongside a powerhouse of roster of indie comics. We raised $7,398 with the help of 130 backers. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And last, but certainly not least, we always have to say the best for last. The Moana Nui podcast Kickstarter is starting and it's going to be launching next week on Monday, March 22nd. There is a battle going on right now. There's a lot of back talking, talking down everything. Everybody's talking about who's going to be the first backer to the project. So make sure you are following our Kickstarter because we are offering a mystery bag that bonuses valued over $100 to a person who secures that #1 spot. So make sure you hit that preview link at www.Moana Nui Podcast to get in on action. So that way you're notified as soon as the Kickstarter goes live so you can get that #1 spot. But now let me introduce our wonderful guest for our podcast tonight. We have Elissa Sanchez. She is of Spaniard-Mayan Indian, Yaqui Indian-French descent, whose father immigrated from the country of Honduras and her mother from Mexico. She is born and raised in the sunniest place in the United States and the lettuce capital of the world, Yuma, Arizona. Her imagination and creative ideas started at a young age when she would listen to bedtime stories from her dad, who read Lord of the Rings and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. She will also watch a lot of Disney movies. Her favorite is Mulan and Atlantis, The Lost Empire. Some of her favorite TV shows of anime are Cowboy Bebop, Sailor Moon, Car Captors, Trigun, Inuyasha, and Yu Yu Hakusho. Yu Yu Hakusho. After discovering a comic called Vigilance and meeting Mike Watson of Freestyle Comics, also a supporter of the Moana Nui podcast. And if any of you have seen our latest artwork, that's due to Mike Watson. Alyssa was inspired to take action on creating her own story called Tai. I hope I'm not mispronouncing it. Taijitsu Gates, which while also becoming a part of the FSK team. So now we're going to bring our glorious guest for tonight's podcast, Alyssa Sanchez.
Hello.
Hello.
Also, you said the title right, so
Oh,
Gates.
I know some people pronounce things differently, and I was telling them one. I was like, "This is how I know how to pronounce it, so I'm hoping I'm not butchering it."
No, you did
Yes.
such an amazing job. And also, I knew as I made the title, I was like, I know it's gonna be hard to pronounce, but once people get the flow of it, it's gonna click in.
Exactly. And of course, if you're a fan of anything Japanese, it will be very easy for you to pronounce. Well, of course, we always like to start our podcast getting to know our guests. So, Alyssa, tell us a little about yourself, about where did you grow up, and how did your love for the world building begin?
So I was born and raised in Yuma, Arizona. So I mean, when it says it's the sunniest place on earth, the temperature goes up the highest at least 125.
Wow.
Yikes.
So when you see videos of people like putting their pans out and actually cooking like in the sidewalk or something, like that's no joke.
Wow. Oh my goodness. So, was it growing up there, or what inspired you to your love for the world building?
Well, it's kind of like when you're a little kid, when you're so hyperactive, you tend to want to build like imagination. When you watch a TV show, you just feel like you have to interact with the characters. Like when they're doing hand movements, you do the same thing. And if you, when they do like, for example, animes, you just want to become a character that either inspires you or you feel like, oh, I just want to be like them.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. I think we all been there, that we see it, and it's like we want to be part of that world. Or we create our own version, like, the floor is lava. Oh, someone said Arizona is no joke. They grew JD Smith Digital Art says he grew up there. Don't know if I can do any more Phoenix summers.
I do not blame them because I mean, it gets hot. The only times we really enjoy our summers is between like spring and fall, because it's like that nice in between weather that is just not too hot, not too cold. It's just right in the middle, comfortable.
Exactly.
So what are some cool spots in Arizona? Like what are there anything, I mean, I know the Grand Canyon spans different states, but what are some cool things about Arizona that folks should know about? Because I'm curious. I have not been to Arizona myself yet, but it's definitely someplace I want to visit.
Well, I know some people would say there's not much here, but I will say, since I've been here all my life, a lot of people like to look forward to the Prison Hill. I'm not sure if you are acquainted with the movie 310 in Yuma, where it's like the toughest
Yes.
prison to get out of. We have
Yes.
that here. If you want the
Okay.
history. We are in between going into Mexico within like at least a 15-minute drive, or to California where you can see like San Diego or Los Angeles, meet celebrities if you feel like it, like all the works.
Okay.
And
So
then also, oh sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
And then also for people to cool down during the summer, we have the like our little river that you can just go cruising around, either swimming or go into the tubes, like where it just takes you off. So there's that.
Okay.
Nice. As long as I have water, I'm good. Like some clean water that I can refresh myself in. That's what I miss. I mean, well, we have water where I'm on the East Coast, but it's not pretty. So I'm a little bit of a snob when it comes to ocean because I'm from Hawaii and it's
Yes.
beautiful. So like anything else is like, it needs to be blue.
Mm.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Ryan Robinson is saying it has some of the best sunsets. I can only imagine like being out in the desert. Like I would love it because I want to just see the stars without all of the ground light filtering up. My husband and I talk about moving to the west, so we'll see.
I will say living over at the west, like it really does beat the cold weather that comes in. Like I can't as much as it gets hot here, I cannot stand the snow. Like it gets cold, even if it's like a little bit of inch. I'm like, nope.
Yep. That's exactly what we're trying to escape is the snow. I'm done with it. Like take me back to the warm weather and some good water, some kind of better water than here.
Exactly.
Now you mentioned a little bit that Arizona is relatively, in close proximity to Mexico, which is where your mother is from, and then you said that your father is from Honduras, and you have roots there. Can you tell us a little bit about what life and culture is like there? Do you get to visit often?
So in Mexico, I'm able to visit often since it's not too far away, and a lot of people, I don't know, the cultures there's, of course, every culture is different. I feel a bit more welcome because they have, in Mexico, we do excellent food there, celebrations, and my mom always tells me about like her family. She's an only child, but like she has a ton of relatives I get to meet. The one place I do want to visit that I feel like I would be more rooted with is Honduras. But lately, it's just a lot of the family is here now in the United States. But there's a lot of family that I've never gone to meet in Honduras. And that's the one thing I want to do because I know if I want to learn more with my great grandmother, who is Mayan Indian, I get to learn her stories. It's what I'm understanding. Because when I was asking these questions about more and the roots of being like Mayan Indian as well, it's just it's like it's difficult when families all separated because you only get bits of the story, not the whole story.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that too. Having moved away from the islands and coming more interested in my culture, as I've gotten older, right? Like, I mean, I was obviously exposed to my culture back home, but not from a more conscious and decolonized perspective, right? So I can totally relate to that. And Honduras is actually one place I have not been yet. I've traveled to a whole bunch of places. So whenever you go, if you need a travel partner, please let me know. The Mulan and Atlantis podcast will go on the road.
Exactly. We'll do a whole travel edition.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that would be so much fun. Go away, COVID.
Yeah, seriously, like COVID needs to go.
Yes.
I'm totally down for it because the only thing my dad ever told me about Honduras when he was there was like it's all jungle and just a lot of things to see. So I'm like, okay, I like to go.
Very beautiful. I bet it's probably gorgeous to kind of observe, kind of like seeing the tropical side of Hawaii, seeing all the beautiful parts of nature and stuff. Those things that you can connect to that you normally don't see on an everyday basis. Now, of course, because you have such a rich background with different parts of your family, how important is your cultural heritage to who you are as a person, but also as a creator? And how do you incorporate it into your projects?
That's a good question. I'd say it's important because knowing a little bit of who you are, you feel more at ease of like, I would almost say, finding that uniqueness within yourself. Like with for example, in my papers it says like Mexican, but I'm so much more than that.
Yes.
But when people look at me, I'd always, even as a kid, I'd question myself, like, am I really Mexican? Because people would say, hey, your eyes, like, where are you from? Because your eyes look more Asian than anything. And I'm like, at the time, I was like, I really don't know how to explain it to you. They're like, oh, but you gotta be something, right? I'm like, I'm myself. I'm me. I'm unique. You don't have, like, my eyes are like Mayan Indian, but all of me is like so many things, and it's just a big story to tell if you want to sit down and learn. Oh no. So then they'll be like, oh no, I just want to know like what ethnicity, and that way I feel comfortable. I'm like, no, I want to tell you my story about all like myself. So how I like to incorporate that in my project is not only just about like, because there's many characters that I like to introduce, like different heritage, different things that are um kind of represent characters. It's also explaining to them like whatever background you're from. Like it doesn't always mean like um then think the better word is like no matter what, like you're uniquely you regardless.
Exactly. It's too often that I call it just being here in the States. Everybody has to have some kind of label, and it has to be a simplistic label. And nobody wants to keep forgetting how this country is such a melting pot. And with both with colonization and everything else, everybody is a mixture of so many things. And it's like, it's not just a blanket label anymore, but we still like to have those blanket labels. So, so
Yeah,
lots of
absolutely.
things to work on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and JD mentions like they just want the cliff notes, right? They just want the
Yes.
high top. Like they don't
Hmm.
really want to understand who you are as a person. So
Exactly.
um,
I totally agree.
Yes.
yeah, and I can relate to what you said about, like people seeing different aspects about your exterior experience or, features and like trying to figure you out, because people do that to me all the time because I'm also someone who is of mixed ancestry.
Hmm.
Um, they're like, "Are you Asian? Because your eyes are Asian,
Yes.
and but you kind of look Polynesian. You look a little bit Filipino too." I'm like, "Yeah, all of that, all,
All
all," and
the above.
I love it all.
You know that
Right,
box that says all the above? Just check that for me.
right. And I remember many times people would say they'll try to do a guessing game with me, and I just sit there and like I got so tired one day and I was like, yeah, you're exactly right. Am I? I'm like, I don't know. Like you seem so smart. Like, I mean, keep guessing though, and like hopefully you get the right answer, but I'm not gonna answer for you.
Yes. I love it. I love it.
Get it, girl. I love the sass. I love the sass. So let's talk a little bit about like your daily life. You are a real life hero working in the medical field as a histotechnician. Can you help us understand what that means and what your job encompasses, and what has life been like serving on the front lines during this pandemic?
You know what? I'm really glad you're asking me this because when I would tell people I'm a histotechnician, they think automatically, oh, you like history. I'm like, no, that's not. And they keep talking. I
No,
was
it
like,
is.
okay, I'll let you educate me what history is. Great. Um, so histotechnician, the word histo in Latin means tissue. So I deal with things, and I'm gonna be very I would say clean as possible with this. Like histotechnician is basically anything that comes from surgery, we receive the parts. We'll
Hmm.
take the parts that we need and we'll turn them into slides. And for that way, the doctors can read it under the scope to see if it's cancerous, if it's
Yes.
tumorous, and if there's anything like abnormal with the cells. And that way, they can properly diagnose it. And we do more staining and testing to be sure that they get the proper treatments for it.
That's awesome. I didn't know what the title was for that, but that's certainly a very important job. Lord knows I know some histotechnician has looked at my tissues.
Yes. For sure. All of us in some form or fashion.
Yeah. So, like, what has life been like for you? With the pandemic and just all of the different protocols with dealing with patients, and how have you dealt with, like, because I can only imagine, right, that there's additional pressure because number one, it's a complex and challenging job already, but then two, to also have to worry about, because you're dealing with tissues, right, and very raw things from people who are sick. I mean, obviously they're sick because that's why they're there. So what has that been like on the front lines?
I will be honest, it was stressful, very emotional, and it's just the feeling of uncertainty in a way, because when us healthcare workers are in the front line, when we're like either meeting patients or receiving like specimens from them, we are at a position where we may come home with this virus spreading into our families or friends. I have a family that their immune system's really low. I have friends that are immunocompromised. It's just when I mean also emotional, it's just like you have to make the decisions, like, should I risk myself being around people and exposing them, or having the time to isolate myself just to protect the people I care and love so much. And I'm, as much as like I was like really social, I had to learn how to like really be isolated, but I got to, like, the good thing about it was I got to learn more of myself. Like, it's like that opportunity to sit down, like really like look at things. But it was stressful and emotional, and it was just like everyday people saying, "Are you okay?" Or I'll ask them like, "Hey, are you all right?" And it was a lot to take in. And in our department, we don't exactly thankfully don't deal with patients so much, but we still had to keep in mind of the coworkers that we are dealing with very carefully.
Yeah, JD hit it on the head. He sensed it too, like that it's still very hard to speak about because those are like really tough decisions to, for all frontline workers, because the potential for exposure is at the highest. We've seen that in the media, and it's, unfortunately, like, there's a lot of people that don't appreciate the sacrifices that have been ongoing for over a year now, right? Like, and the toll that it's taking on people, not just those who are on the front line, their families.
Yeah.
I have a coworker who, like, because she's had to, still be at work, not in a hospital setting, but come into the office. She actually, unfortunately, she's in a position to do this, but she actually got a rental, like, I don't know if it's a B&B or temporary rental, like short-term rental, so that she doesn't bring things home to her family, right? But not everybody has that luxury. A lot of the people working on the front lines don't have the resources to do that, right? Like, they were already struggling before the pandemic. So my hat's off to you and to everyone who has been working, in those parts of the community and of our society. I think these professions are very much valuable, but we have taken them for granted for a very long time. And so I just absolutely want to say thank you on behalf of everyone. Thank you for what you do, for your bravery and for your strength throughout this difficult time.
Exactly.
Thank you. Think I'm a bit like, I am shaky because I will say this, but everything's good. Um it is really tough because as much as like people take safety precautions, and I took as best as I could, I did end up contracting it along with my family. The most impact I had was watching my family, because thankfully, like, myself and like my kid brother, we had like mild symptoms. Well, I'm shaking because the worst who had it was like watching my dad, who has, as you said in the like, as we're like as the intro was mentioning, he read me bedtime stories. He's told me about the history of myself more, and it's just the feeling of watching your family. Like my dad, he caught the COVID and pneumonia at the same time.
Oh,
So it was aggravating to watch him like struggle and you feeling helpless. I felt so helpless. And it was a struggle too, just to like convince like the hospital we need an oxygen tank because I understood that we can only keep so much patients at the hospital, that once they hit like a certain type of, I wouldn't say improvement, but like stabilization, we were able to have my dad back home. But to watch him struggle and be uncertain if he's going to live like tomorrow or the next day, that's where I'm like, okay, like it was just a very scary moment. Thankfully, like, oh, like thank you Jesus, like he's fine. All of us are fine, but it shows the importance of like why we need to like keep safe, because I wouldn't want to watch or be the one to blame like when somebody comes home and they watch their family die or the struggle.
yes.
So yeah, it's really important to follow guidelines, take care of yourself, because it's not just like we shouldn't be selfish. Like we need to like help others too, because I don't want to see anybody struggle with this either.
Exactly. And just you telling that just shows how some of the pressures the pandemic is affecting you in the work sense. But we do know, like a lot of the states who are trying to fight this, keeping parameters of, being on lockdown, things like that. But and of course, being in the healthcare system, we see on the news a lot about healthcare professionals talking about how it is taking a toll mentally dealing with the pandemic and everything. What self-care and mental health habits have served you best to help battle and deal with this during this past year?
It's honestly having good support. Thankfully, we're living in an era where if we can't like see each other, we can like physically see each other. We can go online and say, "Hey, how are you?" Phone calls are nice. Um, if somebody does follow the guidelines of the inner circle, like still wearing masks, like it's semi okay, but still not recommended. But I strongly recommend like mostly just chatting online, having video calls, make sure someone's okay, because what helps a lot of a person isn't always like physically being there, but like mentally telling them like, hey, like, is everything okay? What, like, do you want somebody to listen to you? Like, what can I say to like keep your mind at ease or distract you with things? And I mean, also a lot of my mental health was like also like earlier I was telling somebody if they do commissions, I go ahead and purchase commissions online. It's like, can you draw this for me? Because it's just such a soothing way of like watching art be created, and
Yes.
watching videos are comforting, and like it's just basically a good support system, at least to me. Having like good family, good friends, or a mentor or somebody that's always nice to you. It's like, hey, I like somebody to talk to me for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've found that, whether it be in my personal life or in my, my work setting,
Yes.
it is just taking that time out of the tasks, right, that bog us down every day, and just do a quick check-in, like, hey, how's it going? Like, no, really, how's it going? How are you? Like, let's not talk about work for a second, right?
Yes.
How are you at home? How are you dealing? Like, and just creating spaces for people to feel like they can actually say how they're really feeling
Mm-hmm.
without someone judging them, like, oh, well, you can't be feeling like, suck it up, those kinds of toxic approaches to, what everyone is dealing with right now. Like, I had a session with my team and they were like, we were talking about things about work, but then it got to a point where they just needed to vent. So I was like, okay, I put everything down and I'm like, all right, and it's amazing what the impact that can have, because afterwards, they were like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for that therapy session. I just
Yes.
kind of needed, I was like, hey, we're all humans. I needed to, right? Like, I have people that I go to, I have my support system, like you mentioned, right? And you remembering that we're all just human beings trying to navigate this thing together, right? And being open to the experiences, like you shared tonight. A lot of people are here in the comments like, oh my gosh, Alyssa, thank you for being so vulnerable. It's such a
Yes.
great, side of you to see. And we're not often in situations where we feel comfortable doing that. So salute to you as well for being vulnerable on the podcast. We've had quite a few people, sharing their stories in the different guests that we've had. So thank you so much. I think it helps me. I mean, it certainly helps me too, right? Like hearing how other families are, going through this. And I'm so glad that all of you came out safely. Especially your father, because I know what it's like to be close to your dad too.
Yeah.
So let's lift the mood a little bit.
Yes.
You're a fan of several classic anime such as Yu Yu Hakusho, Sailor Moon, Cowboy Bebop, and often Latinx, Black, and other indigenous people were often told that anime is for white people or Asian people. How have you dealt with any stereotypes, and were you able to find fellow fans to help support you?
I don't want to say it's easy to say because it wasn't for me. It just took me a while. But it's like you just kind of cover your ear in one end when they're talking, and you just like walk away in the other. But like, I mean, I think the best way is like when people say things like that, you have to really look at the ignorance that they're saying things and just realize like they don't understand. And if they want to understand, like they would like sit down and listen to it. But if they are not willing, then it's just something just to walk away, be like, you know what, I can explain this to you, but if you're not willing to listen, all right, let's see you later. I'll hang out with the nerds over here because they're pretty awesome over here.
Exactly. I mean, today, which has been great on the progression of how the world has been, because today, now, anime, sci-fi, gaming, comics, and manga is like mainstream now, and people who are fans of those things can be as free as they can be in being themselves, since the world now accepts it. But we did go for a time that those things wasn't as acceptable, especially for people of color. And did you ever have to deal with that with, growing up with anyone outside of your immediate family or friends or anything that just did not accept your love of those beautiful geeky things that your father introduced you to, the anime or anything? And then how did you overcome those issues of dealing with that thing?
I'd say I'd almost say the question's a little hard only because being in a small town, there was always people that were a little bit hard to deal with, but they kind of assume like you'll grow out of it type of phase. And there's other people that, since it's a small town, it's something different. So they were very open about it. So I was always like in the middle, like those that weren't willing to like, they were thinking, oh, I'll just grow out of it. I'm not going to stay with it so long. It was really hard to like explain to them like that was like my world. That was like my escape from things.
Yes.
Like anything that was, I'd say like hard to deal with, or like when you're bored at school, like you'd like to be in your imagination bank for a little bit and say like, this is what I want to do. And you imagine yourself as like the hero or a character in a world where it's like you yourself built in your mind. You're like, I'm some, to other people, I may not be somebody, but in my world, like I am somebody important.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, definitely. Speaking of importance, indie comics and the stories that the community brings are absolutely important. And you are a huge advocate, particularly through the Kickstarter platform. You've invested in so many different projects and actually found and built a relationship that eventually ended up with you becoming a part of the Freestyle Comics team through Mike Watson. Are there any particular creators that have inspired you?
Real quick, Mike, if you're watching this, shout out to you because it's all credit to you, because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't like keep doing what I'm doing and the passion that I love and the story I'm trying to like tell people and a great team that I have. And oh, sorry, can you explain your question again? Because I was like, I had to at least give him credit because.
No, I was just asking, are there any particular creators who inspired you?
Like within the indie community?
Yeah, any.
Okay. A lot of people that inspired me, like I'd say like with my favorite like anime like Yu Yu Hakusho, like uh the creator, I liked the uniqueness that he told the story, but not only that, I saw a difference between his writing when he ended up marrying the author of Sailor Moon.
Yes.
Where you can tell with a his series, like within a Yu Yu Hakusho, like towards the end, and also in Hunter x Hunter, like women were just becoming like more powerful within his stories.
Yes.
But I noticed my inspiration or like people who I admire mostly is becoming more in the indie community, only because I feel like, I mean, everybody's human what they're doing, but I feel like am seeing more engagement within the indie community when it comes to like, for example, like LaShawn Coben, who's doing Beautiful Soldiers. It's not only the story that she's making is inspirational. It's like the person who she is.
Yes.
Like I'm hearing her background, like what she went through to make sure that her story is going out there for everybody to read. Like that inspires me. Mike Watson, who not only like am I personally working with him, but it's also okay, technical issues.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, Mike Watson being enthusiastic with comics, I believed in his work. I jumped on it. Uh when I went to a convention in Phoenix Comic Con and got to meet Sebastian Jones, who is doing Niobe.
Yes.
Again, not only his story I was inspired, but it's also like him as a person as well. When he's talking about his background, he's a really good salesperson. I will admit that. He's like so passionate and like it just you feel that the story becomes real because they are, they're when they're. It's hard for me to explain. I'm sorry. It's just them being an actual person, them telling their actual stories of where they were from, how passionate they wanted to create something, makes you believe in their work, makes you want to support them, makes you feel like so inspired. Like I want to be kind of like them in a way. Just be hard workers, be diligent in what you believe in, and make sure the story happens.
Yes, definitely. Now, of course, I know Moana and myself knows definitely all of those creators that you talked about, and everything you say is just, phenomenal people. And I know Moana will probably say some other stuff, especially with the group that you just mentioned. But just speaking on yourself, I mean, not only your professional side, but you are truly a groundbreaker for the Indigenous and POC community. For me, you have been introduced to me as being one of the first female writers of Indigenous and Hispanic culture. For any of our young Indigenous or Latinx girls that are, watching right now, that are looking to become a writer, how did you find your place in the comic world and what advice would you give them?
To be honest, I with comics, like it just happened. As a writer, it was more like for example, I always believe female like for like a female writer is only able to do just like with books. I never thought of them like being in comics because I never really seen them in comics. Like a creator and a writer, I just saw them in books. So when I thought of my story, I figured, okay, maybe I need to like for my story to be out there, I had to publish books. And I tried writing a book, and it wasn't people that discouraged me. It was you can be your own worst critic. I'll sit there and be like, this is not good. I don't see it going anywhere. Oh man, like I'm not as good as this writer or this person, or they make it exciting. You can be your own worst critic, and that was like my like heart, like a little bit my downfall because it's like I wrote, but it never went anywhere. And so for my story to be kept alive, I just never gave up on it. As cliche it may sound, like you just don't give up on it. And but how I got into the comics, and my best advice is always be willing enough to be kind to others, because you do not know what opportunities like open for you. Like don't expect gifts when you're giving a gift. Just be kind to others, and a door's gonna open up for you. Like when I was like I let's see, I pledged one Kickstarter in the beginning when I heard of Kickstarter, and I figured, okay, just one pledge. But it gets addicting when you want to like help others. Like you just see the excitement of like my project was successful because of all of you, and you're like, I was a part of that.
Yes.
So going through like Kickstarters, that's how I ended up bumping into Vigilance. And I decided, oh, I want to support this Kickstarter because it's a female superhero that reminds me of Superman in a way, but like a lot better. And I put my pledge in it, just like a little pledge. And then I got to see more of the updates, and I was like, I want to do more. I want to put more into it. So I did put more and more to this pledge. And finally, once the pledge ended, what I pledged into was a cameo. I was like, oh, just a side character, like, but it was my character from so many years of like writing this character. And all of a sudden, like, somebody told me, go ahead and like message this guy just to say thank you. Cause like for me, like to some people it may not be like a big deal, but for me it was a big deal. I was like, oh, a cameo, this is awesome. So I reached out to him through email. I said, thank you so much for the opportunity. I worked this character for years. I not only showed him pictures of my character, but also there is an animation of her. So I sent him that. And he's like, hey, can we talk? And I was like, okay, a stranger's talking to me. And then I'm here. Like, it's like such an amazing like opportunity, a blessing. Like, it's great.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, Mike is a great person to collaborate with, and like folks here are saying, Katie's saying, Mike's enthusiasm is infectious. Yes, I mean, if you're a fan of Chat and Draw and Mike Watson, you know this. He is the most enthusiastic person in comics, and we love him so much. Here on the podcast, we collaborate with him too. You know, so we absolutely know how he is, and it's yeah, he and I need to get our project together too. But, you know, we're trying to do so many things, right? Us indie creators,
exactly.
So many passions, like
so much to do, such little time.
Absolutely, yes. So, let's ask some of the questions from a fellow Latina, one of Dana's nieces. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. So, being a Latina and writing books, did people take you seriously?
No, they did not. They thought I was, again, like it was a phase, or like, oh, it's not going to take you anywhere. And like I do enjoy being in the medical field, but I think what was frustrating is growing up, it was pushed into like, oh, you should do nursing, you should because this is what every female's doing. You're doing more well with the community. And it's not to insult any nurses. It's like they do an excellent job. And I just work hard to, like, at the time I wanted to be a nurse, but then like doors weren't really opening. It just got frustrating. And I felt like that was the only way to like be like a strong female, when really you can just, again, like just be yourself. Like if you have a compassion of something, go for it.
Yes.
Like people take you seriously when you take something that you are passionate about seriously. Like, this is mine. I do not care what you have to say. Like, this is what I want to do. That's when people take you seriously.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Great advice. Great advice. And then she asked, what would you say for inspiration to generations to come who want to write books?
Yes.
Have a good support team. The ones that believe in you, that they know when you take it seriously, like take it on, because that's what drives you to keep pushing. Take advice from people who are wanting to see your growth and who have experience in it, because the more you learn, the more, like, not only experience, but also a great written picture you're presenting to the world that you want to give to your audience is the best advice I give. Like, support and take on the advice all you can get, because that way you become like a better writer, a better employee, and a better person to like show the world like I can take it on.
That's great advice.
Yes, definitely.
So let's talk a little bit about your own comic, Taijitsu Gates. And, you know, we mentioned earlier that she's going to have a cameo appearance in an upcoming issue of Hot Shot. I'm not sure if it was one that's already been published. So congratulations on that again. As a new and upcoming creator, you know, creating Taijitsu Gates and the universe for it, like, what excites you about being able to create your own world?
That it's becoming a sense of reality. Like, I'm still in disbelief that it's like there. It's exciting to see, like, to have a team that's just as enthusiastic as me. Like, Mike's always gonna be number one enthusiastic about it, but like for me, it was just like it's just so surreal. He gave me a good team to where like they are just as compassionate as I am to see this story grow. And I know I have LaShawn into issue 2 of it, and she's like helping me like get excited for this too, and I'm just like overwhelmed by a lot of things. Like, it's just wow.
That's amazing to kind of hear your whole process with that. And it actually, you know, brings me to another question that that one of our, as Moana was saying, she's a young Latina who's interested in writing also. She wanted to know how or where do you come up with your ideas for your writings? What inspires you for your creating process?
So what inspires me is, shows such as like cartoons, like 90s cartoons, anime, mangas, like from books, like storybooks that I've read. But it's also like surprisingly, what inspires me is people who I've met inspire me to like create characters almost similar to them, but with abilities. Video games inspired me a lot too, because like I want to say Soul Calibur, for example.
Yes.
Soul Calibur is like there's like option, like you can play characters, but then there's like an option of like creating your own character and kind of picking up some abilities from other characters, and it's like uniquely your own in a sense. And that's what inspired me too. It's the things you see, the things you hear, the things you touch, like inspire you to like want to create like a world to like express to people. And what also inspired me too is gets kind of tiring when you're explaining like a story and like to friends, and then you have friends that tell you you gotta do something with this because this is really exciting. And it's like, okay, I have to do something. That's what inspires me, is like people telling me like this got to be something right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Awesome.
just go for it.
Exactly. Exactly. And of course, as we know as creators, you do it so much. So, of course, we want to know what has been your biggest challenge and how did you overcome it?
um I'd say the biggest challenge is self-doubt, um fears, uncertainty.
Mm,
Like the like it's easy to see something and try to get rid of it, but when it's like something internal, it's so hard to like jump out of it. Like it's just like for me to get over it, I had to again like like ask advice, get encouragement, um ask my team like what they think, and they gave me inspiration to be like, if this is your story and this is what you want to push, like just go for it. And I had to get a lot of encouragement from them. Like they make me like a stronger person. Like my team, like they're fantastic.
That's amazing. Like teamwork is so important.
yes.
And building a good one takes time and investment, right? Like,
Mhm.
but when you find it, oh man, appreciate that because it is so hard to find. And when people can work together and feel just as passionate about what each person within the team and their role is doing, like that's the magic right there. So
Yes.
I know we can't wait to see Taijitsu Gates. I saw some of the the concept art for it, and I'm like, oh, it's badass. Like, yes. A little bit of fantasy, a little bit of samurai,
Yes.
like I'm really excited for it. And I know why Mike picked it up, because both Mike and I are fans of some similar things.
Yes.
So aside from creating Taijutsu Gates and like your work in the medical field, what are some fun things that you like to do in your spare time to kind of balance out the pressures of the job and
Yes.
all of that?
Don't know if it's like Latina blood when we get like a little fierce. But I do like exercising is one of them, but the major one is like I took martial arts. Like I did judo, I did taekwondo. Like that was like my go-to. Like that was my side. Like that's what I do. Since with COVID, like I'm not able to do that, but once it opens up, like I'm back to it.
Yes.
Watch out, y'all. She's not just writing about it, she can do it too.
Exactly. It's gonna be taking butt and taking names.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just so it's just really empowering just to do those things. Like anybody who's passionate something, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I recommend people take martial arts because man, like it makes you feel like, oh, you can kick ass.
Yes, absolutely. Oh man, I don't know if my body can do it anymore. It feels like it's getting older, and it's like, oh, the joints and all that stuff. But the
You can
discipline,
do it.
absolutely.
There's some 80-year-olds, some 60-year-olds that are getting into it. So we still got it. We still can do it. We still got it. We just have to stretch a little bit more. Stretch a little bit more.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've been sitting on my butt too long with this, this pandemic. So
Yes.
let me just get my walk on back first.
Exactly.
Before...
Baby steps. Baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps.
Do some yoga.
Yes. Yes. Andy is like, yeah, Taekwondo, and LaShawn said she's thinking about doing it too. And Andy said, in terms of the team, he's like, that's what we're here for. We're here to back you and beat self-doubt. Absolutely. Because we all deal with that in some way.
Gotta have that board.
Yes.
Those people to support you.
Absolutely. And that's why I love this indie community. Like, look at all of us here.
Yes.
Now Andy's calling me out. Do it, Moana. Do it.
Okay,
do it.
Oh, maybe that has to be some kind of challenge that y'all we be doing. Have Mike be doing push-ups. Y'all gonna have me doing something. I don't know.
Hey, we get tied to the Kickstarter. If we get
Oh God.
Over 100
Backers.
backers. So if y'all want to see Moana do it, we need 100 backers.
That's right. Oh Lord, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm committing to right now, but sure, let's go with it. Come on, 100 backers, y'all.
There you go. We're going to have 100 backers within 24 hours.
Oh, right. Oh, yes. No, this has been great. Such a great conversation tonight.
Yes.
Alyssa, thank you so much for, just sharing your story, like truly sharing your story and being vulnerable and transparent
Yes.
in a way that I think will help our listeners, deal with whatever internal struggles they might be facing right now too. I think it always helps, right? Like when you hear someone else and realize that you're not alone in the experiences that you're facing.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really great being here. Like the questions are great, and for the 13-year-old, like keep doing what you're doing, and I want to see your like keep writing because I would love to read your writing. Like once it hits, like you have my support, 100%.
Yes.
All right, Sydney, you hear that? Sydney?
Yes,
and I love the
Sydney.
fact that even though you said you had self-doubt, that I, for those that are watching, and I end up telling Alyssa about it before we started, it literally when my niece heard about this and heard about Alyssa being on there, she was so excited. She was like, "Oh my gosh, I want to write too." And can I? She wanted to send some questions in because, it's a school night, but it was like, the fact is that you gave an image, and like they said, representation matters.
Mm-hmm.
Her seeing you gave her that representation. She was looking of a Latino woman out there that is writing something that you hardly ever hear about or see, and gave that inspiration that I want to know more so I know I can do it, how I can do it, and follow her footsteps. So you are now an inspiration, not only to one, but probably several others out here.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I really appreciate it. All my heart. Oh, so awesome.
So anytime you have self-doubt, just remember there's a 13-year-old named Sydney that is looking up to you and looking forward. And of course, now Sydney, just know Godmama gonna get you those comics of hers so you can read them. 'Cause I love you. Mi
Yes,
corazón,
Sydney.
mi corazón.
That's right. Yes, Sydney. And when you have your story, I want to read it because at some point, we want to publish children's stories here too. So definitely put your words and let your voice be heard as well. Yes.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Andy. I see Andy says, Sydney, I don't know you, but if you ever have questions, the indie community is here for you. I'm here for you. Keep writing every day, never stop.
Yes. Andy's a great champion for the indie community too. He's always showing love all over the Kickstarters and all over the
Yes.
community.
So we may have to have that a part of, the Wildcard Chronicles series of the children comics. So have these children writers bringing out some more talent, be it our next generation coming out here, giving that representation that we so need.
Absolutely. Yes.
And well, yeah, shout out to Sydney for like wanting to write. I know Andy's I hope I'm not spoiling anything, but like Andy's like supporting his daughter very young to create her story. And so you can like you're never too young to start something. So if you want to start now, go for it.
Exactly. Yes, we have to encourage their creativity. She knows I'm a big supporter of her being creative. So we have to do that because I know, from my own generation, how often a lot of us got discouraged because, as we mentioned before, it's like, oh, you grow out of it. Oh, this is something you're not going to make a job out of, and things like that. And so many people got discouraged. But, that with this pandemic proved how much the creative and art world was needed because of the comics, the movies, the animation, these stories, and all this beautiful art that people are making is helping us get through this year going on plus of being in this pandemic and keeping us sane in the process. Because without it, I don't know where we'd be.
Girl, yes.
It'll be the purge.
Oh, yes. Oh, man. I won't be surprised if we got a new Purge movie coming out soon.
I know. After last year, they got a lot of material.
I'm saying, as recent as yesterday. Lord,
2020 gave some material.
It's crazy what is happening in this country right now. Like, oh, come on. Alrighty. Well, it looks like we're at the end of the hour. Time flies.
Yes, it does.
So once again, thank you so much, Alyssa, for being on. Gracias.
Muchas gracias.
De nada. Gracias.
Yes, we can't wait for Taijitsu Gates. Do you have like an anticipated release date? I know you guys are still in production, but
still in production, but once we have a release date, I will let everybody know.
Yay! We will be happy to have you on again to talk about it whenever that time comes. So, yes, thank you so much for your inspiration to people young and old, and to all of our listeners. Thank you guys for tuning in and for your continued interest in the Moana Nui podcast and the stories of our Indigenous, POC, and African diasporan communities. We appreciate all of the support that we got for season 1, and we hope that you guys will show up for our season 2 Kickstarter again, launching on Monday. 100 backers. Andy said he's gonna get 100 backers himself, so he can make me do whatever it is I'm supposed to be doing.
And it looks like Katie's talking about volunteering Mike for some push-ups. So is that we can make that as another goal. So we hit 150, we got Mike doing some push-ups. So those that want to see Mike do some push-ups, whether he knows it or not, 150 backers.
Yes. Or maybe, Dana, we're building Mike's package, so perhaps we'll do like all the things and then 50 push-ups.
Exactly.
We're about to set him up good. It's all love.
He's gonna be like, I stepped away for one moment, and look what happened.
And look what happened. Look what my sis has got me out here doing.
Exactly. I'm doing push-ups, and now like I have to have a come to Jesus moment with Alyssa after this podcast and talk to Moana and Dana.
Yeah, look, and Andy said we still waiting for Mike to do the first push-up. Yes, because they were clowning on his form. Okay. Oh my gosh. Oh, I can't, my stomach.
Hey, that's the best exercise. They said you get more from laughing than you do in the actual sit-up. So yes, let's get that laughter going.
Yeah, laughter is the best medicine too.
Exactly. Really. And if you missed 2 weeks ago when we had the cereal debate with Danny Quick, please tune in and watch it on YouTube. You should get a good laugh and see how me and Moana gave him the WWF smackdown with him and Morgan. We are the champions, my friends.
That's right. The WWF divas are in the house.
Exactly.
Alrighty, guys. So again, thank you for listening. We look forward to your support on the campaign. Please be safe. Continue to wear your masks, social distance, wash your hands. Good sanitary habits go so far. It saves lives, and it might save the life of your loved one. So even if you may not be impacted yet, let's continue to do it so that you don't have to be impacted and nobody else does either.
Exactly.
But Ryan Robinson is saying this was awesome. Thank you, Alyssa, so much. I'm looking forward to connecting y'all too, because commissions and and thank you to the wonderful indie comic community who has been a part of our podcast and in support of it if they have not yet come on. So Dana and I really appreciate it. And again, we hope you get we hope you continue to support what we're doing so that we can, spread the love even further and hear more stories from our wonderful community.
Exactly. And before we go, Alyssa, can you tell our audience where they can find you so they can follow you or more and keep updated about your comic?
So I have one, and it's an Instagram, Taijitsu_Gates.
Awesome.
Taijitsu_Gates. All right, I'm gonna put that in the comments. Once we get up off out of here, because I can't. My eyes are like done. But yes, please follow Alyssa and continue to support her journey. We will certainly be championing her from the Moana Nui podcast, as well as all of our other guests. And we appreciate y'all. Take care. Malama pono. Ahui ho. Until we meet again.